Hello, everyone. This is our latest hit of World is Inside the 22 podcast, which is now also a vodcast as well. I'm Sean Maloney, and joining me for the next 20 odd minutes or so is a guy I was desperate to catch throughout the Rugby World Cup in Japan, and it's the big bopper himself, Benny Kay, who was there doing all his work with the ITV, a World Cup winner himself. Benny, how you doing?
Yeah, good, thank you. It's all a bit surreal at the moment over in the UK with the lockdown and 8 weeks. We've now been all stuck together with our families and no rugby to go and watch. But aside from that, we're fit and healthy. So that's the most important thing.
You can't gloss over that. You've got 4 kids charging around your joint. How are you managing it? How old's the eldest, the youngest, and what has gone in between?
We go from 13 down to 2, so it's fairly chaotic. We've got all the problems of teenage years starting and all the problems of the terrible two. So it's a challenge. I think we've got newfound respect for teachers. We're trying to get all their schoolwork done as well, but I've literally just come from doing maths, and I've had to resort to trying to explain it in terms of Nerf gun magazines and bullets to my 6-year-old.
Is this harder than playing international rugby, juggling 4 kids on isolation?
Yeah, because unfortunately, in rugby, when you got frustrated, you could punch someone, but unfortunately, with kids, you're not allowed to do that. So just end up in a world of pain.
I don't think the 2-year-old's going to handle one of your ranging shots. And what we normally do is start off with the from our guest, their best off-field story. So to sort of set the bar, we had Drew Mitchell. He tried to fight Rhymes in a New York bar, 4 or 5 a.m. in the morning, no dramas. He tried to knuckle his older brother Julian on the All Blacks bus, came out the wrong side of that. What's your best off-field story across your many years at the top flight of pro rugby?
Right, so when we got back from the World Cup in 03, massive massive party atmosphere and everything flying back. But then we all went straight back to our clubs, so everything died down a bit. The scenes at Heathrow Airport, straight back to your club, and you had the old heads all kicking lumps out of you. You forgot about it very quickly, and then they organised about a month later this parade through the streets of London, and we thought actually everyone's sort of forgotten about the World Cup now. No one's going to turn up. We get to this hotel all the way down. Dorian West, who's a bit of a working class hero in his own mind, was talking about going to the palace and seeing the Queen, and that he wasn't going to treat her any differently to anyone else, and he paid her wages and all this sort of stuff. And we get to the hotel where we're meeting up. We're all in our nice sort of sponsored suits because they wanted their moment in the sun. It's freezing cold December day, sorry. We jump on these open top buses and there's not a soul in sight. Now all the beer and alcohol sponsors had put their product on the bus, but it was being beamed live on Sky News. So we knew that all our coaches were going to be watching this, and we were all in the middle of playing. We had games on the Saturday. This was a Thursday. So none of us could drink because the cameras were all over us, apart from the fun bus, Jason Leonard, who'd retired. So as we turn right onto Oxford Street, having seen no one, there's literally 750,000 people lining the streets and people leaning out of every balcony. And all the way down to Trafalgar Square, where we're going, Jason Leonard is emptying 30 other players' share of alcohol that has been put on the bus, and we're all being well behaved. We get to Trafalgar Square, and it's at that point and all the fans have followed the buses and things. So you've got hundreds of thousands of people at Trafalgar Square, and they decide to do a Q&A. There's cameras everywhere, the booms, and Jason Leonard at that point realizes these old buses that they've decked out to look nice and modern with all the sponsors' logos over the side and England Rugby haven't actually got a toilet on them. So freezing cold days, grabbed the only receptacle he could find that was an empty bottle of champagne and attempted to fill that. And one of the camera booms has come flying overhead to take an aerial shot. He's panicked, lost his seal, and managed to spray all over Lewis Moody's trouser leg. So then we're done there. We go off to the palace. We've got Downing Street to go and see the Prime Minister as well. But we go off to the palace. We get this full welcome into the through the guard of honor. You know, guys in their number ones holding swords up the red carpet into this massive room where we're going to have tea with the royal family, and all our families have been invited. The RFU staff, the palace staff are all there. But first, we're going for an audience with the Queen. So we're taken into this room, put in a semicircle. These doors open. This guy in a suit walks in. Turns out to be the Queen's private secretary. Says, "Just thought I'd come in and tell you the etiquette, boys," and tells us that the first time you meet her, shake her hand, little bow, call her Your Majesty. But if she continues the conversation, call her Ma'am, not Mum. Everyone got that, and we're all paying full attention. Apart from Dorian West on the end, who's looking at the plasterwork and trying to find faults with everything in the room and things, not paying any attention. So then the secretary goes out, the doors shut automatically, then they open again, and we hear this pitter-patter, pitter-patter. In run 6 corgis, and they are all round Lewis Moody's trouser legs. So he's like, trying to bash them off. So we're basically all in tears laughing, and then the Queen walks in, and she's half the size of us, but she just emanates power and stuff. So big intake of breath, and Martin Johnson goes up to her and says, "Hello, Your Majesty. Let me introduce you to my teammates. So Mike Catt, ma'am, Jason Leonard, ma'am." Shakes her hand. I hope he's washed them. Shakes her hand, carries on round. Mike Tyndall, ma'am, you might see him about the place. Keeps walking around, and everyone is worried about Dorian West on the end. This is some diplomatic disaster that we're going to see. He's going to say something stupid, and myself and Martin Corrie are on the end. Gets to Martin Corrie, ma'am, hello, Your Majesty. Ben Kay, ma'am, hello, Your Majesty. And the room's actually quite noisy at the time, because everyone wants to hear, everyone's muttering to each other, what's he going to say, what's he going to say? And it just goes silent. And he does the most spineless thing I've ever seen in my life. When he panics, sees the Queen wide-eyed, isn't quite so brave anymore, and was the only member of the team to curtsy to the Queen. Just completely folded, spine went to jelly. And there was his big moment to set this Republican stance that he wanted to put across. So he didn't do anything. Absolutely useless, wasted on it.
That's your taxpayer money well spent, Ben Kay, to see him crumble like that in front of the Queen.
Absolutely, mate. She became more of a hero on our mind that day.
From the World Cup, from your time and everything else that you managed to accomplish in the game of rugby, you made the transition into commentary with ITV. You're doing a super job. Everyone I speak to around your punditry just glows in how they catch you coming across in each of your calls. What caught you about making that transition, and why did you make that jump into the media side of things?
Oh, look, obviously every player sort of dreams of that sort of job when they come to an end. I probably would have carried on for another year or so, but it probably would have been for the wrong reasons. I think rugby players struggle a little bit with even if they've got other stuff to go into. So I'd sort of set up an advertising agency, which I'm still a partner of, and that was sort of going to be the career path. And then it was just a chance. The most popular man in rugby, Austin Healey, good mate of mine, he came into Leicester Tigers to get some physio on his knackered old body after he had retired, and he'd just been given a job with ESPN. And growing up, we all used to commentate on ourselves in the garden and stuff, but I really enjoyed that side of it. So I'd always sort of hoped there might be an opportunity, but it is purely right place at the right time. And Oz said he'd just got this job with ESPN. They were looking for a co-commentator. Leicester had just made noises about maybe not renewing my contract, and I was going to have to look elsewhere if I wanted to keep playing. And it was just fate, really, that came in. So Austin went and had a word with them. They said, "Oh, actually, there's not many forwards in commentating in rugby. We'd like to look at you." Went and did a game that they actually told me which game I was going to be commentating on with a commentator as a test first. So I went to our analyst at Leicester and got him to download the game for me and made some notes before we went on. So they said, "Oh, when I did the test, the guys that were doing it said, oh, it was amazing. Like some of them, you'd seen what had happened before the replay." I said, "I've watched it 6 times." But I got the job there, and then ESPN had 3 really happy years with ESPN, and then BT Sport got the rights for the Premiership over here, and I've been doing that since then. So I actually have retired 10 years this season, and I played 11 seasons for Leicester. So next year I'll have been a commentator as long as I will, as long as I have a professional rugby player at Leicester. So. I've been ever so lucky to get into that, but it's been the dream transition, really.
What's been the best bit of advice you've received on the commentary side of things?
I'm so lucky that from day one I worked with Nick Mullins, who calls the final on ITV with me as well, and right at the start he was fantastic to me, and he'll probably tell me the best bit of advice he ever gave me was knowing when to shut up and let the pitchers do the talking. And there's still, as you know, Shawnee, there's still a lot of non-verbal communication that happens between commentators to make sure you don't talk over each other and stuff. And Nick's not averse to doing the old Dumb and Dumber and sticking his finger on my lips to stop me talking near enough. That's how it feels anyway. So that's a good bit of advice. But the best bit of advice he ever gave me was try and keep everyone involved in the conversation. And the way to think of that is imagine your second row partner, Martin Johnson, who knows everything about rugby, is stood here. And your mate or your mum who thinks they know everything about rugby but don't is there, and try and keep those two in the conversation together. And that's been the best bit of advice I got. So making sure that you're not dumbing it down too much for the guys that watch every week, but you're not putting people off from watching the sport by being too complicated all the time.
He's one of the world's nicest blokes as well, Nick Mullins, isn't he? A real champion.
Yeah, he's fun. I'm not going to say that where he might watch it. So, but yeah, he's
right. Okay, he goes okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to throw this one at you. You can commentate any moment in the history of rugby, yours or otherwise. What would you choose to put your words to, your lasting legacy in terms of commentary? And you can pick any moment, any player. It's all yours. What would you take?
Look, I think a lot of people my age would say the same thing. I think the England-New Zealand game when Jonah Lomu really cemented himself as a game changer. That game, although it hurt like hell as an England fan at the time, just to commentate on that guy's breakthrough would have been the big thing. And fortunate enough to have played against Jonah sort of towards the end of his career a bit more. He was, I think he was a year older than me actually, because I can remember a lot of the guys that I played with at sort of under 21 level coming back from a New Zealand tour, or under 19, I think it was, coming back from a New Zealand tour and saying there was this freak there at number 8 that was just tearing everything up. And I remembered his name and then watched him coming through. But that England New Zealand game over in South Africa would be the one that I think changed rugby forever.
So when that replay rolls, Nick Mullins taps you on the shoulder and says, "And have at it," and Lomu's storming down that left-hand side front on, what would you describe? How would you describe what unfolded?
I think there'd be a lot of screaming. There was lots of screaming on the pitch afterwards, I think. Look, I think, again, Sean, you're a master at this, but sometimes when you commentate, one of the things that I worked out is that because people can't see you, and usually when you're talking, your hands are going and people can see how excited you are by your facial expressions. Your tone when you're commentating, you have to go up, and actually the first few times you do it, it feels really embarrassing because you think you've overdone it. But you're trying to transmit this excitement, and one thing that players really struggle with is usually when they've come out of playing, they've been analysing it in their team rooms and stuff, and it's all very down key, and they're probably talking about the things that weren't so good rather than things that were great. sort of commentating on a try and really letting that come out in your voice is quite a difficult thing. I think watching those Jonah Lomu tries, there would be no thinking about, oh, make sure this sounds really exciting. You would have just been out of your seat, jumping up and down, watching that. So I think, I'm not sure it would have been the most eloquent, and perhaps I would have been the wrong person, because I'm not sure it would have been the clip that everyone would have wanted to replay for the next 20 or 30 years. But I think there would be plenty of excitement in there.
Fast forward 8 years, take me back to 2003, the final, Sydney. Benny, it still kills me. It really does. That night still kills me. In fact, I think you and your teammates sent Australian rugby on a downward spiral pretty much up until 2020 with that result in 2003. So thank you for that. What are the key? Obviously, there's a key moment around it. But what are your memories from that night? So when you sit down at an after dinner gig, what would be an abbreviated way that you would describe how that night played out at ANZ Stadium in Sydney?
Well, I think we were obviously confident going into the game. It's always tough playing against Australia in Australia. You know, that summer was the first time that England had ever beaten Australia on Australian turf when we won down in Melbourne. But that victory had given us an enormous amount of belief. So look, I think we went in thinking, if we get everything right today, we'll win this game. We'd got to number one in the world. We'd had a really good few years, but we'd cemented it with a brilliant 2003. But as you know, games don't always go to plan, and lots of things went wrong in that game. The Lottie try early on, we fixed that. There was no panic. I think that was the big thing that would come across is, sometimes when everything starts to go wrong, you start questioning in your mind whether it's going to be your day, and you even hear commentators say, is it going to be your day? But I think we'd reached that stage of bulletproofness, if you like, that whatever happened, we just thought, well, we'll just go back down there and sort it out. But I mean, I made the biggest mistake of all, obviously, dropping the ball over the line, and I had, I love to tell the story.
You got to pull that apart for me. I wasn't going to bring that up. You need to pull that apart for me.
Oh, mate, no, you can't not bring it up. It gets brought up every day to me by some random bloke on Twitter that will send a message just saying you dropped the ball. And to back that up, right, when it happened, you're lying there face down on the turf. And I can tell you exactly what happened. People don't necessarily believe it. And the thing that really gets to me more than anything, it is what it is. It happens. People drop the ball all over the pitch. I was gutted. The only thing that really irks me is one of the only things I was quite good at in rugby was my handling. And everyone now thinks I was the biggest donkey in the world, and they all give me great, like whoever I meet, they're all good hands, Ben, or don't drop it. And actually, that was the only good part of my game. I was rubbish at a lot of things, so that's lived with me. But I remember, the boys all tried to rally around me. Clive Woodward had bred this team spirit that was around honesty and getting each other out of the hole, and we had this buddy system where, if you got into a scrape or something happened on the field, there was someone that's job it was almost to come and pick you up. And Steve Thompson was my buddy. He came pick me up and said, look, just concentrate on your next line out call. If your game falls apart, it'll go into the line out. My game will fall apart. Then Phil Vickery comes up to me and says, just put all that weight through the front row now. We'll get another turnover. We'll try and turn. We'll get another opportunity, but just concentrate on your scrummaging. Martin Johnson, just every ruck you see, slam into those yellow jerseys, and they were yellow. They're not gold. They're yellow.
Yeah. Okay. Right.
Slam into those rib cages. Just put all that frustration. Neil Batt, the defensive captain, tackle. I'm starting to feel great. Matt Dawson, guy who threw me the pass, comes up, says, look, my fault. Terrible pass. I said, I know. I think it was forward. And then Johnny Wilkinson comes up to me, says, look, keep running the lines. I'll try and get you another opportunity. I'm feeling great. And then, I kid you not, the 14th and final person to come up to me was Greenwood, and with a smirk on his face, I think he probably got that honesty balance that Clive was after slightly wrong when he said, that is going to effing haunt you for the rest of your life. But he was right. he was right. Unfortunately, it has done, but it is what it is. But actually, I'll tell you exactly. I genuinely tell you what happened. Um,
Yeah.
I did what you tell every kid not to do because it was War that was coming over, wasn't it? War came over and
Mm.
Matt Dawson, it's a 2-on-1. He tries to just hold him with a slight pump dummy. So just show the ball, hope he starts to go. If he doesn't, Dawes holds on. If he does, he gives me the ball. If he stays for Dawes, he gives me the ball. I saw him start to throw it and thought, well, there's a chance he's going to smash me here. Took my eyes off the ball, watched him so I could set myself for the contact as I go over the line. And I caught the first pass and Dawes threw the second pass. So that's how I cocked it up massively. I did exactly what you tell every kid not to do. Don't take your eye off the ball. And I took my eye off the ball in the biggest game of my life with a chance to go over. And Will Green was right. It's haunted me for the rest of my life.
It has, but I need to fast forward from that moment. You stay in the game, you do all those things that you just mentioned then. Who were you alongside when Wilkinson slots the droppy to basically win it? Who was the first guy that you embraced and was like, this is ours now? We can head back to Manly with the title.
Well, we weren't quite there, but I was on the other side of the ruck from Wilco. And actually, I think I was in a better position to take the kick, but they went. I don't know why they went with Wilco to give it, but that should me. It should have been I'd written the script. I'd dropped the ball there where I was going to win it for everyone.
Yeah,
it should have been me.
Yeah, so, that was your moment.
I was on the other side of the ruck, so I had a great view of it. And I'll tell you a story about it. I'm sure you might have heard it already. But Wilco never missed. And he'd missed a couple of shots in that game, which was so unlike him. When it got to extra time, he knew it was going to come down to him. We were all trying to get the cramp out of our legs, just doing everything we could to try and recover for the extra time. He actually went off and did a kicking practice session because he knew it had come down to him. And he kicks the drop goal with his wrong foot. Seminal moment, kicks the drop goal with his wrong foot. So, I think once Dawes makes that break, we know that it's gone from, a 40% chance or a 60% chance to an 80% chance he's going to get it. So I had absolute prime viewing of that, and it was brilliant. But, they were going to kick off to us, and there was still time to kick off, and I know that I'm by catching it. So I wasn't celebrating. I was thinking, right, we've got to get this off the field. I was back in position. Trevor Woodman, who lifting me, was back in position, and everyone else is high-fiving and cuddling each other. Australia kick off, and Trevor Woodman, the loose head prop, is the guy that takes the kickoff because no one else is in position. And if he hadn't been there, we would have been screwed. We would have been absolutely screwed. I clear him out, and then obviously the ball goes out, and then we can really celebrate. And my biggest regret is that the closest person to me when the final whistle went was the referee. And he was the first person that I shook hands with. And he hadn't been overly nice to us during the game. We hadn't necessarily agreed with all of his decisions. But, when you look at the footage and everyone's like jumping on each other and stuff, there's me bloody shaking hands with the referee. There we go.
Who was it? Was it Joubert?
Watson.
Was it Joubert who was the
was it Watson? Andre Watson?
Andre Watson. It was. It was indeed. Yeah, I think you've nailed that. Hey, last one before I let you get back to the family, and it's a perfect segue into it. The kids muck up in isolation, and you get to punish them with a Ben K highlight on repeat all day long. Which rugby highlight is it?
I'd go with I'd show them like the top 5 big hits, and then just threaten them with that if they're not good.
Your top five big hits?
I think so. My favourite ever game would be the first cup final I played in. Was Stade Francais in their back garden, right next to their home stadium at the Parc des Princes, and winning it with Leicester, knowing what it meant to the club, and some of the players, legends that were far off retirement, thinking maybe this is their last shot. I've never been so nervous for a game. I knew after that I'd never be as nervous again. So the first helping would be that, and then the second helping, just to rub salt into your wounds, would be my favourite ever England game, which was England versus Australia in Marseille in 2007, when everyone had completely written us off. Even the England fans, you buy your World Cup tickets months in advance. Even the England fans walking into the Stade Velodrome, we could see we're trudging in, going, we'll just get this game out of the way. We can go and get on the beers. And you could feel the atmosphere in the stadium. You could see it in the Australian players' faces during the game. Everyone going, what has happened here? Where have these guys come from? And that was, without doubt, my favourite ever England game.
Yeah.
So you can come and watch it as well if you want, Shawnee.
Yeah, well, I think the great thing about that game was as well that you all got to walk out of there with your walking frames, which was nice. So that was a good touch. Beat Australia, then get out of there in wheelchairs and walking frames. Well done, Dad's Army. Benny, I'm going to let you get back to the gang. Thank you so much for spending some time with the World Rugby crew, and I can't wait to hear your voice again. Back on the box. Mate. Rugby, please, anytime soon, Ben K. Anytime soon, please.
Still miss hearing you behind me at the World Cup, mate, telling me what was going on. You were noisy enough.
Don't start.
You were noisy enough.
Don't start. Yeah. I'll show you the noisy the next time we catch up. Thanks again, Benny. We'll speak soon.
Right, see you soon.